Welcome, dear Aries. I'm Jennifer Jean, your Western astrologer at astrojenniferjean.com, and this is your 2017 year ahead astrology forecast. This is for anyone who has their sun, their moon, or their ascendant, and especially your ascendant, in Aries. Okay, Aries, let's begin. First of all, I'm going to talk about the planet Jupiter and where is Jupiter transiting in your chart. So Jupiter is still, for the majority of 2017, is still going to be in Libra, transiting your seventh house. So wherever Jupiter is, it wants to bring you expansion. It wants to bring you blessings. It wants to bring you optimism and wisdom as well. And the seventh house of your chart is to do with your partnerships, with relationships and marriage and even business partner, anything that's a contractual type of agreement. So when Jupiter is transiting still in your seventh house, it really wants, to bring you good luck in those areas of your life. But Jupiter also asks that you be grateful and mindful also. It is the big benefic planet in the sky. It's sometimes referred to as the Santa Claus planet, but even Santa Claus has a naughty and nice list. So keep that in mind. To receive the blessings from Jupiter, you still have to be very, very mindful. Stay positive, even when things don't go, according to plan. Just always remember to be grateful for the blessings that do come into your life, and Jupiter can really expand in that area. So you have until October, about the first week in October, to really use the positive Jupiter energy in your seventh house of relationships. So that can either bring in a relationship to you if you're single and looking. If you're already in an established bond, it can improve your relationship, improve marriage, expand. You may even come out of having this transit feeling more optimistic, possibly even having maybe even changing your belief system a little bit too. Jupiter rules, your belief system, and maybe even finding that you and your partner become more spiritually inclined. That's a possibility too with having Jupiter in the seventh house. Jupiter does go retrograde. Let me see. The dates are from February 6th until June the 9th, when any planet, but I'll just speak about Jupiter going retrograde, it asks you to really look for inner wisdom. Jupiter is always trying to bless you with wisdom and knowledge, but when that particular planet, Jupiter, goes retrograde, it asks you to be more introverted, finding the answers within yourself, even having spiritual knowledge, maybe even having more intuition with regards to seventh house matters, relationships, marriage, business partnerships. So it's almost asking you to review those situations with your seventh house. Once June passes and then you're out of the retrograde, then things can start to move ahead a lot more in those regards. You won't be so introverted. Okay, what next? On October 10th, Jupiter then enters a new sign. It will enter Scorpio. And once it enters Scorpio, it enters a new a new house as well. So it's going to be entering into your 8th house. And so from October 10th on, when Jupiter is transiting in Scorpio in your 8th house, you may find that blessings and expansion may come to you either through finance, but it's the other people's money. So you could especially be lucky if you need to get a loan, maybe a loan from a bank, or if you've been waiting for, say, some kind of insurance payout, something that has to do with other people's money, maybe even your partner's money. Okay, could come from inheritance, even maybe taxes. That's all governed by the 8th house. Also, it could even be touching on some psychological matters as well, because 8th house rules, psychology, and with Jupiter there, it can really give you some breakthroughs. Possibly if you've had some fear, anxiety, anything like that that you've been battling with, when Jupiter enters that 8th house, it can really give you more, more of like almost like break you free from any maybe fears or anxieties, stuff like that. Okay, and then the next thing I want to talk about for the year ahead is Jupiter is opposing Uranus a couple of times this year. It's already happened last year in 2016, but that trend will continue throughout 2017. The dates are March the 2nd and September 28th. So when Uranus in your 7th house opposes Uranus, which is transiting your 1st house, that kind of energy is what astrologers call an opposition, which is more tension. It's almost like a push and pull kind of energy where you almost have to make some kind of a choice. It's sort of like a teeter-totter. It's like a back and forth. So they're having this conversation in a bit of a tension type way, but it's asking you to really make a decision. And when Uranus is involved in anything, it's a lot to do with like sudden, it can be like sudden shakeups, sudden surprises, anything that kind of comes out of the blue. That's the Uranus energy. It's kind of shaking up if you're in a stale, pattern or anything like that. Jupiter wants to move you, in a new direction. Sometimes it comes, easy because you're ready for the change. Sometimes not so easy. It can sometimes feel like the rug's being ripped out from under you if you're not prepared for that kind of energy. But chances are, you've already had Jupiter in Libra in your 7th house already for quite some time, so you're already familiar with that energy. Uranus has been in Aries, transiting your 1st house already for a few years, so you're familiar with that energy, but just be prepared for some kind of choices that maybe need to be made with regards to your 1st house matters, which is, your life path, your life direction, and anything to do with your physical self, and making a decision within partnerships or relationships, marriage, or business partnerships. So be prepared for that. And again, the more mindful you are, you can tap into that higher vibrational energy and really have it benefit you. Okay, so that's enough of that. I'm going to now talk about Saturn. Of course, we always have to talk about Saturn. I did Jupiter first because Jupiter always brings us a lot more blessings and luck, and it's a benefic. And wherever Saturn is transiting is where you're going to have the most hard work. Okay, Saturn is the taskmaster. It's the disciplinarian. It doesn't give you anything until you prove yourself. Okay, so Saturn is still in the sign of Sagittarius, and it has been already since last year, and for all of 2017, or pardon me, no, at the end of the year, or close to mid-December, it will be changing signs, but pretty well for the majority of the year, it's still in Sagittarius transiting your ninth house. Okay, so that's where Saturn really is putting that pressure on you. That's where you have to do the most, work. It feels kind of tedious. It feels kind of like sometimes Saturn makes you repeat and repeat until you get it. So ninth house matters is anything to do with higher education. So could be, if you're a student, anything to do with universities, um, getting higher education. It's to do with spiritual and religious beliefs, your belief system, uh, your morals, and maybe even your belief system is starting to change. You might have always thought one way, and now you're feeling this like this pressure to maybe see things in a different light. It could be anything to do with law or courts as well. Okay, so maybe that's been a bit hard if you're in anything to do with legal matters. But just know that whenever Saturn, as long as you do what Saturn is asking you to do, by the end of that transit, you will usually be blessed with, great knowledge and wisdom for what Saturn's trying to bring you. But it doesn't come easy. Again, with Saturn, if you find yourself repeating the same pattern and getting the same results, and then you get frustrated because you're like, oh, nothing changes. Saturn is the one putting that pressure on you, telling you it's time to start looking within and making those changes. Because if you're always looking for outer circumstances or people to bring those changes to your life, it's never going to happen authentically. So you have to do the work that Saturn asks you to do. So that's going to be, let me just look at some dates here for you. Saturn retrogrades from April 6th to August 25th. Again, again, talking about retrograde planets, when it's Saturn retrograde, you may have to redo something in regards to, legal matters, court, higher education, universities, something within your belief system. It might ask you to kind of like take some steps backwards. Looking for that inner wisdom. That's what retrograde planets do. They want you to look inwards so that you can find those answers with yourself, so that they come from an authentic place. And then let's see some dates. Oh, Saturn is in a trine to Uranus, which is really good actually especially for the Jupiter Uranus opposition. When Saturn trines Uranus, it adds some stability. So that's very good. So that because when, like I said, when Uranus is involved, especially in a more challenging aspect, it can sometimes make you feel like you've just, like the rug's been pulled out from under you, and you're not always exactly sure where to, you know, what to do, and it's just like lightning bolt, energy coming out of the sky, like out of the blue, like you're not exactly sure where it's coming from. So the nice thing is May 19th, November 11th, we're having a Saturn trine Uranus. That's adding, like I said, that's adding the stability, the discipline to that erratic kind of, Uranus energy. So we can expect things to, be more stabilized, not so shaky, put it that way. Okay, next. I will mention, I'm not going to get into too much detail about Saturn entering Capricorn right now, but December 19th, Saturn will leave Sagittarius and enter Capricorn, which will then enter a new house for you, which will be your 10th house of career. I will be here to talk about it, later down the road, once we get a little bit closer to that time, and then I will explain how Saturn will, what kind of energy Saturn will bring to you once it moves into Capricorn and into your 10th house. Okay, so for now, enough about Saturn. Now we're going to talk about the Venus retrograde. Okay, so that's going to be a big deal, especially for you Aries, because Venus is going retrograde in your sign, and it's going to be transiting your first house. Dates, March 4th to April the 15th, Venus goes retrograde. When Venus goes retrograde, first of all, Venus is the planet of, love, relationships, pleasure, things that you enjoy, the pleasures of life. When Venus goes retrograde, especially in your sign, in your first house, it's never a good time to do any kind of like big changes to yourself, especially in your first house. So I'm just going to warn you, between those dates that I told you, March 4th to April 15th, don't schedule any, tattoos or plastic surgery, or don't make any dramatic decisions, about your physical body or your physical appearance. If you get a drastic haircut or color during that time, chances are you might end up regretting it. Now, hair can grow and you can recolor it, but anything that's really drastic to your physical self, anything for beauty enhancements, is not a good idea when Venus is retrograde. Wait till it goes direct and it's in full speed and it's giving off the green light. So when Venus is retrograding in your first house, again, it's a retrograde planet, so it's again asking you to go within. So sometimes retrograde planets have lots of negative vibe around. Oh, it's retrograde. It doesn't have to be negative, actually, but it's a time when, again, you need to go within. So anything to do with Venus-related things, you want to review and, seek the answers from within. It's not necessarily a time to, go out and, start a new relationship or, again, like I said, anything to do with beauty or enhancements. That's not a time. I'm going to warn all the signs that they say, because Venus rules marriage and relationships and love and partnerships and that, it's not necessarily the best time to get married. And it's kind of pitsy because, it's likely that you plan your wedding a year in advance. But it's between March 4th and April 15th, so it's not necessarily maybe in prime time summer wedding season. But that's just a forewarning. With Venus retrograding, um, sometimes things don't always work out as you anticipate if you begin something during any retrograde season. So again, if you're beginning a new relationship or a marriage or what have you when Venus is retrograde, it just means that once it goes direct, things may change, and they're not as maybe they seemed. So also I want to tell you that when Venus is retrograding in Aries, it's actually going to dip back into Pisces and into your 12th house as well. So basically what a retrograde does is once it's going direct and then it stations, it's called stationary. It kind of like, it's like it stops in the sky at a certain degree. Then it goes retrograde and then it goes back over where it was. And then once it goes stationary direct, then it goes back over. So it's like walking a path like 3 times. So it's going to be, so it's already will have gone direct, in Pisces, and then it goes retrograde and then it goes back into Pisces, into your 12th house. So I think it's also asking you, to pay attention a lot more to your intuition, your dreams. You maybe have a lot more like psychic ability even. Your intuition will be greatly heightened because actually like Venus loves being in Pisces. It's exalted in Pisces, and maybe even asking you to rethink about like compassion or just get in touch with that spiritual side of yourself. You might feel like you want to kind of escape a little bit of, and sort of rethink your ideas or, your love relationships or, any of your partnerships, or you're dating somebody new. When Venus goes retrograde, you may see them in a different light. That's just a few things that Venus retrograde can bring up, especially when it dips back into your 12th house of, private, secret, that type of thing. Okay, enough of the Venus retrograde. Now we're going to talk about the eclipses. So we always have eclipse season, and the lunar eclipse, the first lunar eclipse, is happening on February 11th, and it's in the sign of Leo, which is ruling your 5th house. So when we're talking about eclipse, and it's a lunar eclipse, it is a full moon amped up. They've been known to say it's like a full moon on steroids. So it's almost like 30% stronger than a regular full moon. So what's the lunar eclipse in Leo transiting your 5th house might bring you? Well, any kind of lunar eclipse is going to bring about some kind of ending. Okay, it's like a manifestation of something, like a culmination. It's like not a good time to start something, but to finish something. So 5th house manners, that could be something to do with your children, creative project. If you've been working on any kind of creative project, it would be a time when you might see some fruition, coming to fruition. What else? Fifth house could be love affairs too. It's a romantic house. It's called the house of true love. So anything, something again. If you were on a teeter-totter in a relationship, something like that might come to some kind of culmination. But lunar eclipses, I mean, any eclipses you're going to feel for, like, you can already feel them 6 months before and 6 months after. So just touching on that, now I'll talk about the solar eclipse that's happening on February 26th. And that is in the sign of Pisces. And that's going to be transiting your 12th house. And a solar eclipse is a new moon. And again, it's an eclipse, so it's an amped up new moon. It's a time of beginnings, okay? Beginning something. It's in Pisces in your 12th house. So again, I mean, it could be you beginning something like becoming more mindful, meditating, taking up yoga, or it also is about faraway places. You could be traveling somewhere abroad. It's a something happening, a new beginning. That it might even be private. It might be you working behind the scenes to start something that isn't quite ready to manifest or become public, perhaps until the following solar eclipse, which is happening in August. Okay, so the next lunar eclipse is August 7th, and that's happening in the sign of Aquarius, and that's transiting your 11th house. So something coming to an end, something coming to fruition, culmination, manifestation, to do with 11th house matters, which could be to do with friendships, could do with clubs or organizations that you are a part of. It could also be, it's the house of gains, your hopes and wishes. So something coming to an end, something kind of coming to a close should happen in around August. Well, August 7th is the exact date, but again, you can feel that energy, quite a bit before and quite a bit after. Next, moving on to the next solar eclipse, which is happening on August 21st, excuse me, and that's happening in Leo in your 5th house. So you see February 11th, something kind of coming to an end, but August 21st, something, a beginning, okay, which is both in your 5th house. So again, launching something new. Again, to do with creative project. Could even be, if you are wanting children or having children, I mean, that could be a very fertile time to, begin starting to create babies, starting a new love affair. If you're single, and looking, that could be a good time to meet somebody. Yeah. Okay, anyways, I don't want to make this video too long. I think I've covered the main things that are happening in 2017. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, share my videos. And if you would like me to have a look at your unique birth chart, please go to astrojenniferjean.com, and I'd be happy to hear from you. Okay, thank you, and until next time, stay positive.